All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Malaysian Housing and Property Summit. Now, for the first session, it is going to be a very exciting one. The first session will be on the property sector in the new normal. Where do we go from here? The few questions that we will be asking in the session, this is to save the moderator's time, are how can the property sector cope with the post-pandemic, post-COVID pandemic? What are the challenges, trends, and opportunities in the new normal? How can the property industry build back better? What will be the market? What will be the market one going forward? What are the key strategies that will enable property developers to be future ready? Very, very interesting questions. We have a powerful panel to discuss this timely topic. The first is Tanji Lee Kim Yu, founder and executive chairman of Country Heights Holding Berhad. FYI, Tanji, I actually live in Country Heights, great place. Number two on the panel is Dato T. Eng Ho, executive chairman of Eastern and Oriental Berhad. Number three is Mr. Shan Saeed, chief economist of Juwai-IQI Holdings. Fourth is Muhammad Salim Kailany, president and CEO of UDA Holdings Berhad. And to moderate this panel, we have Tanji Datuk Dr. Abdul Rahim Abdul Rahman, executive chairman of Rahim and Co International Berhad. This is going to be an interesting session. I hope Tanji, you are ready because the floor is now yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. First of all, I would like to congratulate KSI and PIAPSI for organizing this 2021 summit, which is indeed timely. As a country, indeed the whole world struggles with the pandemic, but hopefully seeing the light at the end of the tunnel soon, especially with the government recovery plan moving ahead. And I thank you for inviting me to moderate the first session. I also extend a thank you to all participants which are currently with us today. I understand virtually from all across Malaysia. Our topic for the session is the property sector in the new norm. Where do we go from here? And to discuss with us today are four distinguished speakers, which I will now briefly introduce to you. The first speaker is Tanji Lee Kim Yu, founder and executive chairman of Country Heights Berhad. Tanji Lee has more than 30 years experience in residential, commercial, and leisure property industry through his Country Heights group of companies. Some of these prominent developments are the Mines Resort and Golf Club, Country Heights Damansara and Country Heights Kajang, as well as the Golden Horses Health Sanctuary, a health screening center within Country Heights' own Palace of the Golden Horses. Our second speaker today is Dato T. Eng Ho, the executive chairman of Eastern and Oriental Berhad. Dato T is a founder of Kerjaya Prospect Sdn Berhad, which has grown and now known as Kerjaya Prospect Group Berhad. He has more than 30 years experience in both civil and building construction. Dato T is now the executive chairman of Eastern and Oriental Berhad. Our third speaker is Mr. Shan Saeed, chief economist of Juwai-IQI Holdings. He has 20 years of solid financial market experience in the areas of private banking, commodity investments, global economy, and business strategy. Based currently in Kuala Lumpur, and with his experience dealing with clients globally, Mr. Shan will share with us today his perspectives from a consultant and investment angle of the property market. Our first speaker is Surveyor Muhammad Salim Khairani, President and Chief Executive Officer of UDA Holdings Berhad. As one of the highly regarded property players, Salem has over 29 years of experience in the property industry over a range of services, including real estate valuation, property development, and project management. He was also previously the CEO of PNB Development and the Senior Vice President at Sandabi Property. I look forward to Salim's insight as a registered valuer and a developer in the market. With a diversity of experience and perspective for the panel of speakers today, I'm confident that we'll be able to have a very fruitful and diverse session. Just to quickly recap on how this session will go. Each panelist will be given between 8 to 10 minutes to present his view on the topic, followed by a Q&A session for about 20 minutes and more if we have more time. We shall end the session at 11:15 with a brief recap of what's being discussed. Now, without much further ado, may I invite our first speaker to share his thoughts on the new normal in the property sector. Where do we go from here? Tanji Lee, the mic is yours.
Thank you, Tanji. First and foremost, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Tanji Michael Yu and Datuk of KFC for inviting me to speak at this forum, and also to thank Tanji Rahim to be our moderator. Now, I always have this motto, turning crisis into opportunities. And after listening to Tanji Michael Yu to emphasize that, going forward, that we property developer must equip with technology, and we Dato Cruz urging everyone to have optimism, and also the minister will give us some what government doing and some policy method. And we understand under Malaysia, we still under this very deep crisis of pandemic, and a lot of environment are beyond our control. And I like the topic we're choosing for us during this session was the new norm for the new norm for property market. Maybe I'd like to take next 10 minutes to just contribute two ideas. First, I think what Dato Cruz just now has said, even last year, I have made a visit to the Home Minister. I tried to talk to him to really start call the have a medical called visa. That time pandemic it seems going to over, and to really attract high-end tourism to come to Malaysia. And I thought that was a very good meeting, and actually just was before Sabah. But to that meeting, I thought he come out an idea. Beside all my proposal, he said Malaysia government going to come out to attract high-end tourism all around the world, as long you're willing to pay $1 million US dollars. And even for China citizens, but based on 1%, 300,000. And I thought that's a very good idea, because if you think we have hired so many foreign workers here, and if we have allowed all these well-to-do, rich and famous to come Malaysia, and because when I see him, I was thinking to get a visa. At least now China people come here, visa is for 30 days. But if we can allow to charge a higher visa fee, but these people can enter Malaysia for 1 year, but to rent out our high-end property. So I thought this is something worthwhile after the COVID-19, if the industry can push this idea. Imagine before this, we also worked with KFC earlier. We have last time MPI is supposed to attract high-end as long as the low-end, the low cost. So today, with the minister said we are going to take care of all the low cost. I thought this direction and this policy will be very good for property going forward. And let we property to attract high-end purchaser or high-end tourism to come to Malaysia. Imagine 300,000 if government allowed on this program, and you make it easy for people and make people feel welcome. 4 million times 300,000, that is a very big whopping number. for everybody to work on. I think this is my first idea. And of course, the second idea I like to promote actually is during this COVID, because I own Palace of Golden Horse, there's a Golden Horse Health Sanctuary. We have vaccination. We also do TCM. And I also very much get into this other alternative, try to complement the vaccine. That's why I say vaccine is good. But unfortunately, this vaccine is continue to, the virus continue to mutating. So I think when we had a vaccine already, vaccine is very good, but we cannot afford to have the industry open and suddenly close again, open and close. So I believe all industry now must organize ourselves and to write our own SOP. Because I think one of the mistakes I think what government do is government have an SOP for all the industry. Imagine the food industry and our housing industry, SOP will be different. All the consultants, they work more in the office will be different. Banking industry will be different. So what I try to say, I have actually talked golf industry, talked to Tanji Anwar. If they say the golf industry, we have a SOP ourselves that every customer coming to the golf course, you must already prove that you have 2 injections already. And all the frontliner, all our service provider must also have 2 vaccines. And we write our own SOP. Now, in the case within the industry, with all the technology, all the data, if they get infected again, what you do, nowadays you get infected, you didn't even have a chance even to go to the hospital because full. So what the industry should do, every industry must work out with the medical supervisor to have your own private quarantine center. And in this private quarantine center, the industry will take care of your own member from stage 1 to stage 3, category 1 to 3, which I believe many people actually, when you got this COVID-19, of course, we did Delta is a bit different, but before, actually, the mortality rate is very low. So with this, when the patient develop the category 4 or 5, then the industry only send to the hospital. So in this way, if your category 4 and 5, let's say your number percentage is very high, then only government can ask us to MCO our industry. So if all industry organize this way, not only we can help to the hospital, and also the industry maybe would have to can facing this new dome. We didn't have to be open and close, and yet from here we can develop the opportunity. I'm trying to say to tell the government after this, instead let the foreigner come to Malaysia. You can come. Earlier I was trying to have this visa called wellness visa. Now people can come here, they can take even vaccine in Malaysia, but instead you quarantine in the room. Now you quarantine in the whole resort, Then we can turn this crisis into opportunity. So the above are my two humble suggestions, and I really hope also after this what you call pandemic, I think the industry, the property developer actually it represents a group which is really what you call have contributed in the past for the well-being of this country, and we must have our voice heard. And this voice we hope to either PFC or Tanji Lee, it must be properly can be written as a policy and as a transparent for all the players. And of course, when I say big environment is beyond our control, we still have a lot to do and to overcome all the difficulty and of course the crisis. So, but in the nutshell, let us all be very optimistic, confident, and make sure we put our country come first and put forward our thought and our this especially for the young generation to continue this property industry. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you for keeping your time. I now invite Dato T to address us. Dato T, are you there?
Yeah, good morning, Tan Sri.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Tan Sri Michael Yong. Thank you, Datuk also. I want to share a bit on more on the post-pandemic. I think with the vaccination of the rate of vaccination, the country go, the way I see it should be by September, I think we should be open up most of the industry, like the way I see, should be able to. So thinking about the way after that, what we plan for our project, we really need to think about the safety, security on the property development side, especially the smart system, touchless, contactless on the property development. The other point will be reliable network and strong connectivity, high broadband. I think a lot of people now, they need to work at home, study at home. I think we really need to think about for the new property development. Circulation of the space enable modern amenity like ride sharing, online delivery, balanced distribution of private space versus communal space, and efficient of planning of the public and open space. Next one, I think property development need to think about digitalize of business of contactless efficiency. So we need project inception through a project delivery, digitalize process on the system. And how we, after pandemic, how we do our marketing event, and this I think will be a lot online, virtual sales, digital platform, and engagement with the buyer. The next thing we'll be talking about post-sales and property management. You'll be using the apps to handle handover appointment, defect checking and monitoring, booking and payment for facility. That means post-pandemic, we have used a lot of digital thing, online system and other thing. Next one, what is the market? One going forward. After pandemic, what market want? They want a well-planned layout and practical private space in internal unit balance against general communal space. They need some co-working space. They provide working from home environment in the development. Investment product, they are comprehensive package, low upfront payment. The other one, I think a lot of buyers today, they are looking for the quality fully furnished unit, concierge service, high-speed broadband, strong safety and security system, building community spirit. Look like herbs garden, urban farming, active and wellness program, pet-friendly development also. Sustainability development. Look, solar panel, rainwater harvesting tank, low E gazing, EV charging station, compost garden, recycling, all recycled product. Must be able to accessibility to open space, green lung and public realm. That means, for example, like E&O, they got about the STP2 island with waterfront, running, cycling connectivity. We can very convenience within 15 minutes reach. I mean any public area or the hospital, school, and commercial area within 15 minutes to reach. Opportunity for home buyer and investor, location close possibly to mature amenity like well-established internet school, first-class medical center, commercial, business and retail center. Security and safety, master plan developer that enable security and safety future to be incorporated into the residential lifestyle right from planning stage. The new norm post-pandemic carefully planned development that promote well-balanced private versus public space for families to live and work within the comfort of their home. Active lifestyle, exhibiting open space, green lawn, public realm, and park. Not all the projects can fulfill key point above, but for E&O, we consider ourselves fortunate with the claim of STP Sri Tanjung Pinang to successfully completed. We now have the opportunity to plan the future generation of home, incorporating the 4 key factors above. We aim to deliver a township that is curated for all segments of society, building quality home with innovative design on primary location land, just across the water from Gurney Drive and the new public realm of Gurney Wharf. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Just share a bit.
Again, thank you very much. Thank you. Now I call upon Mr. Shan Saeed to present his views.
Thank you, Tansari. Bismillah Rahman Rahim. Good morning to everyone. Thank you to Tansari, Michael Yo, and Jessica, and KSI and FIAPSI for having me in this Zoom event, which is one of the prestigious housing events in Malaysia. Let me start off by saying that the alchemy of financial markets has changed dramatically in the last 20 months. And pandemic has really tested the resolve of countries and organizations how to strike the right balance between economics and epidemiology. And it's a very challenging task how to come out of this challenging situation in a very strategic way. Bonds have pari passu with stocks, and there's an asset flip in the market. Bonds have become equities and equities have become bonds, and everyone has become a daytime trader. So how to manage these tempestuous times, how to navigate through market situation, it's a real uphill task for any organization or for any country. Nobody has got the perfect manual to deal with this pandemic. At the start of the year, if you can share my slide, we shared in a newsletter about the Malaysian economic outlook and the global economic outlook. And we shared that advanced economies will continue to struggle. And we don't expect global economy to recover before 2023. A lot of people were saying that 2021, 2022 will be the year of recovery. But we look at the global economy very closely. And if you recall Bill Gates' statement in June last year, when he said that second and third wave are going to hit many economies. So we shared about Malaysian economic outlook, the GDP for this year would be between 3 and 4%. And Economist magazine said 5%. And many multilateral organizations said 7% and 9%. And many commentators and press and media people, they question me about why did you say that 3 and 4% and why you did not say 7 and 9%. And my standard reply is, I trust my networking, global networking, and I trust those people who have got strong credibility and who have been spot on many occasions. And if you see what is happening right now, if you go to the other slide of Malaysian economic outlook, I think we are more or less very much in line with market expectation. We have already made the right call on the oil market. That oil market will be trading between $50 and $70. It's above $70 right now. We have revised our forecast. Discount rate will continue to stay at this rate because Bank Negara has done a strategic job last year by decreasing the discount rate 125 basis points to let the policy lever make its impact on the economy. And every policy lever, whether it's government or whether it's central bank, it takes good 12 to 15 months to make an impact on the economy at the macro level. Inflation remains subdued at this point of time. Budget deficit, as we said, will be ranging between 6 and 7%, which is very much in line with market forces. So overall, if I were to look at our forecast, I think it is very much what the market is now talking about, that Malaysian forecast is on the downward revision, which is very pragmatic and is very much in line what the market players and market participants thought that it would happen for 2021. As far as property market is concerned, we at Juwai-IQI, we are still quite buoyant. Our 2019 sale was up, 2020 was up. Even when I talk to you, our year-to-date sale has already touched $1.2 billion. And how we have navigated through these turbulent times, it's very simple. We have stayed in the market. We have maintained a continuous engagement strategy with our valued clients. And in these tempestuous times, one thing that the clients are always looking for is that somebody should hold their hands. And how do you hold clients' hand? By giving solid market intelligence reconnaissance. You give them solid boots on the ground information about various regions, about various localities. And we are present in more than 21 countries. So when we talk to our clients, we bring in the global perspective. And we share them the outlook, not only for Malaysia, but ASEAN region as a whole. And the third strategy that we have done, that we have been quite successful, that we have managed our cash flows pretty well. And in these challenging times, one thing that pandemic and COVID, it has taught to many businesses that you need to have strong cash flow. And in order to survive, you need to have a contingency plan. And at Juwai-IQI, we're already revisiting our corporate strategy. We are always maintaining a strong cash flow in order to move ahead of the market. And one thing that has been the hallmark of Juwai-IQI strategy, that we have been quite agile. And when I was invited by PNB on 30th October 2019, I shared one of the strategies the next 2 to 3 years, those organizations will flourish or those will be successful who are agile. So in this market condition, I think agility is the key. You need to have a continuous engagement strategy with your clients. Property market will evolve and it will bring in new dimensions. But overall, at Juwai-IQI, we are still quite buoyant on the real estate market for Malaysia. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Shan. Last but certainly not least, can I now invite Surveyor, my friend, Surveyor Muhammad Salim Khairani from UDA Holdings to address us.
Thank you, Tan Sri. A very good morning to Tan Sri Michael Yeo, Datuk Sri Ko Pengkang, fellow panel in the discussion. I had a slide presentation together with my presentation this morning. Basically, I would like to touch on the first slide, which is really about the issue going forward in terms of the pandemic. Next slide, please. We have to look at from the angle of basically for us to adapt to the changing market condition. It's important that digital strategy needs to be in place. Why? Because these are the one that provides innovation and greater focus. And we know very well that we used to be doing it through bricks and mortar strategy. But I suppose now we have to look at the click strategy rather than the brick and mortar alone. And we must be able to do different kind of engagement. We used to be doing like this kind of seminar on a face-to-face kind of environment. Now we have to be connected virtually. So the situation has changed. It's not what we want, but basically we have to embrace the change in accordance with what the market is asking for. So I suppose a property industry is no exception. Aspect on digital solution, aspect on working within virtual tours and online sales are something that we need to continue to do going forward. And YB Minister earlier have also mentioned about affordable housing on the B40 sector. I think what we need to see here is there is one with regards to intervention by the government through budget, which I reckon is about close to 2 billion. And apart from that, basically for the private players to also play a part here. UDA, for example, have affordable housing offered within the context of Kuala Lumpur, Johor Bahru, and Penang. And we are trying to expand this to other cities as well. So basically, we know that in terms of the income level, what we're looking at is for the B40 is within the context of about 3,166 per month income level. And if you talk about affordability, these are property which are priced below 300,000. Now, there is also the current situation where there are unsold stock. And what we need to do as developer is really, we have to readjust our price points. And the readjustment is done with the view of basically to also accommodate, because at the moment, the banks are very selective in terms of providing funding. Even where they are willing to provide funding, they will have their own set of valuation, which is a discount from the selling price that the developer are offering. So developer needs to work in cognizance with the market condition and probably provide some kind of readjustment on the price point by giving rebates or discounts on the property that is being offered. What I see from the angle of property player also is that developer will be more selective on future launches. You will have situation where market study is important, and we will be looking at, for example, determination of where are the opportunities for products to be offered, and likewise, the size of the offering would be smaller. There used to be developers offering, say, in the region of about 400 to 500 units at one time. Now they may segregate that into sub-phases and perhaps offering anywhere between 100 to 200 units per offerings. And there would also be requirements for innovation to come in terms of construction. There will be a lot of, I would say, push for using IBS, modern method of construction. The reason for this is really to make sure that how can we adjust our offering by, say, providing better quality products within a short period of time, but maintaining the kind of construction cost budget. Yeah. So all this would be something where going forward is a must for developers to succeed. Next slide, please. Now, the aspect of incentive that needs to be given, I suppose the continuation of home ownership campaign beyond 2021 would be good. So I hope this is one of the points that the government will take note and provide further incentive going into 2022. Why is it important? Because from the angle of entry points, where we talk about within the affordable or even for M40 market, there is a need, or rather there is always a queries about limited budget upfront to commit themselves to buying property. This needs to be incentivized because property is the means of creating wealth. So without them going into property purchase, they would still have to rent property, which is a liability, versus an investment decision, which is to buy property. So by having things like, for example, upliftment of loan financing limit from 70% margin, this is applying for second or third properties to probably a higher margin than 70%. Exemption on RPGT, which is well noted. This was also raised by YB Minister earlier. And of course, like I've said, is to look at whether HOC can be extended beyond 2021. Now, on the positive vibes, we saw a lot of announcement and of course the revival of some mega projects. And if you go around town, like for example, in the context of Kuala Lumpur, for example, you see a lot of highways are still continued to be built. So a lot of this would come on stream around about 2023, 2024. So with the completion of major highways, connectivity would be much improved, and we will see different what you call hotspots for property going forward in the context of Kuala Lumpur. Likewise, in Johor, Penang, and other cities, there are also announcements in terms of investment on infrastructure, ECRL, for example, the double tracking within the context of Klang Valley and Johor. These are all positive vibes, and I hope to see all this coming into fruition and eventually giving positive vibes for property industry. The fact that BNM has been keeping OPR at 1.75%, this is in fact 125 basis point reduction from the previous year. So I suppose this is something good. So effectively, if you go out and try to secure loan for property, bank would be charging you a rate of about 3%, 3 to 3.25%. So this is something good. There used to be times where property costs for financing is about 7 to 8%. So I suppose this would be good because your mortgage installment will be much lower because your cost of fund is much lower as well. And there's also a chat from members of the participant when they talk about the rent to own ownership. This is something that is also important because at the point of entry, like for example, you are in your 20s, late 20s or early 30s, you don't have much income. It's good that you can work on a mechanism of rent to own before eventually commit yourself to a purchase. Some financiers are already working on this. For example, under Rumah Selangor, there is Smart Saver and Maybank has House Key. So I suppose this thing are already offered in the market. So it's really about asking ourselves whether we want to commit ourselves to a house purchase through rent to own ownership or straightforward mortgage. So this really depends much on our commitment. But what is important here is to conclude the first part of the presentation here, I would say an investment into property is something that needs to be considered. Why? Because it is in fact a means of wealth creation. So I would encourage participants also to advise your friends and colleagues that it's important for you to do property purchase in order for you to reap the rewards later in your life through wealth creation. Thank you very much, Tan Sri. I'll pass it on back to you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, indeed. Now, we actually have spent good time, and we have till 11:15, which means that we have about 45 minutes more to discuss or to be involved in the Q&A and to discuss other issues and so on. Before I read the questions that I have got from my chat, I would like to start off by asking Mr. Saeed, actually, before I open to the floor. I have a question for Mr. Saeed. In your experience internationally, how is the effect of the pandemic on the property market in Malaysia compared to other countries, such as the UK, for example? Can I start asking you Saeed on this?
Thank you, Tan Sri. Very important question. You'll be surprised to know that despite of pandemic, despite of this COVID, sophisticated and smart investors are still buying properties. We have got offices in Canada, we have got offices in Australia, UK as well. Property buying is still very much on the radar of those investors. Take the property market of New York, Manhattan, the transaction volumes have gone out of the roof. And we wrote this book in 2015 that real estate has become the new global currency. You cannot depreciate, you cannot devalue the value of the real estate market. So despite this, most of those investors who understand history and economics, they are taking position in two asset classes. One is real estate and the other is gold. And both these asset classes will continue to thrive in the next 2 to 3 years. How the property market is doing in Malaysia, most of those investors, they are buying properties in those areas where they feel the geography is very strong. The property life cycle is in the growth stage. So these are the two factors that are contributing heavily to investments from those sophisticated and smart investors. And since 2013, I have been hearing this, that property market is in a bubble in Malaysia. But many people, they don't really define what is a bubble. A bubble happens when land prices are crashing. Despite COVID, despite this pandemic, land prices are not crashing. People are still taking position in those value trophy investment, which provides long-term value. So I think our experience, not only in Malaysia, but being a global player, we still feel that property, real estate will be on the global investors' radar, not only from retail clients, but also from institutional clients. You'll be surprised to know that Harvard Endowment, which is one of the biggest since I have lived in US, in Chicago and New York, Harvard Endowment has taken position in real estate. And Harvard Endowment, when I talk about, is 40 billion US dollar, one of the biggest endowments in US. So I think most of the sovereign wealth funds, endowment, pension funds, they are looking real estate from a long-term perspective. And real estate will become the new global currency for those investors who would try to preserve their wealth in the next 5 to 10 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saeed. Tanji Lee, do you have any comments on this? Do you agree that real estate is the in addition to gold?
Actually, absolutely, I think I agree. You see, Malaysia, after this, actually, we are still one of the, on the price wise, we're still one of the cheapest. Even either for high-end project. If you look at the mines and you go to Singapore, the same product, you go to Singapore near the Botanic Garden there, and actually we talk about not location, product to product. Malaysia developer, either in terms of resort, also in terms of the high-rise, I think we are still very competitive in the price. And also ringgit have been also low compared to a lot of US currency. And I think as long as if we have a political stability, and also, you know, I think we will be hypocrite if we don't mention that the country must show that we really serious to cut down the corruption and create a much better environment. I think this country will bounce back in terms of property sector. We might be the first one to be bounce back. And of course, coupled with Malaysia developer is also quite innovative. A lot of young developers are very innovative. Create new products, create some new products. I think after post-COVID, people really do on this KYC, who I mix with, and what I call the your property must also link with wellness now, and that is where I think with this, of course, we are very attractive, but people still say like COVID now. If we don't know how to control it well, every country will put us as one of the hottest. Hey, you are come from Malaysia, I reject you. So this is something I think. While we are optimistic, we are confident. Everyone have to not to blame, but to contribute and to influence the government come out a right policy and make Malaysia once again become a very attractive place for people to play. And the other thing is, of course, our rule and regulation. We are English law that actually, I think in the international property play, I think whether like it or not, under we are one of the communist countries, so the law and the order we have actually is one of the most attractive point. And of course, also the taxes. And one of the things we have to really look at, actually, you really talk to, we must pay taxes. We must pay taxes, but we must make sure that tax law is very, very clear, you know. Right? RPGT law, to me, which is, I think, to me as a developer, is a pain in the neck. I think a lot of administrators, you see, like just now, the speaker said, property is for your nation to create wealth. So we must have very consistent RPGT law on the taxes. So this is all I have to contribute and compliment. Thank you on the question.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you for that very optimistic view. This is in spite of the fact that the NAPIC figures shows that we have a lot of properties, not taken up, oversupply of office space and so on. We have these figures. Office space, for example, I think is now occupancy rate is only about 70%, which is worrying. But with those notes or with those opinions by Mr. Saeed and Tanji, it appears that our property market is resilient. Is this what your opinion is, Dato? Yeah, I'd like to have Dato's opinion on this. Are we resilient, the property market?
Yeah, I think you throw the question to me, is it, Tanji?
Being E&O, how are your hotels doing?
Definitely, under pandemic, we can't do much. During pandemic, at the moment, you can't interstate, even inter-district, you can't do. At the moment, it's still running, but in very small scale. Very small scale, or a small group of people only, very minimum, with very strict SOP, what we did.
Yeah.
But I think after pandemic, like last year, November, December, do very, very well in the hotel. Once you open up interstate hotel booming that rate. The way I see.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's go to this affordable housing and so on. And I'd like to, because Salim, you are in a GLC, you are heading a GLC. Does UDA have a rent-to-own strategy within your organization? Do you have enough properties that that you can have this policy of rent-to-own?
Thank you, Tanji. Yes.
It should be UDA.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. The short answer to that is yes. How do we do it? It's basically we work in partnership with the financial institution, because UDA, we are not the best in terms of lending. The risk profile are totally different than property development. Our competency is in property development, but we know there are challenges out there in terms of securing financing. So what we have done is one particular project in Penang called Evoke Condominium. We work with Maybank. They are offering their Maybank house key. So whoever is interested to buy property in Penang, in one of the best condominium in Seberang Perai, they can in fact come to our showroom. At the moment, it's still closed. They can do the tour virtually and basically look at, and potentially they can work on the rent-to-own mechanism for the first 5 years and elect to exercise during that period. So how it works is basically you come in on the basis that you take the rental, and some of this rental will eventually be converted into your purchase consideration. And one, that is the first one. The second one is basically your price would be locked in. So typically you need in Evoke is about 450,000. So that price is locked in. You can exercise within the context of 5 years. So what it means is you have in fact leverage in a situation where you are not subjected to market inflation in terms of value. Yeah. Okay, I would like to touch on, if Tanji allows me, on the earlier question, which is with regards to investment comparison between property and gold. Now, if you want to invest into gold, you must pay 100% from your own money. Whereas in the context of property, a lot of the time you will be paying anywhere between 10 to 30%, and the rest will be financed by banks. So what it means is you have provided some gearing, which means that your capital that you commit into the investment is much less than buying into property. Whilst we understand that gold is liquid, you can always trade it every day. Property is rather limited, but property is something that you use. Yeah. If you don't buy property, then you have to rent from someone. So rather than renting, you might as well turn it into an investment mechanism by buying a property. So that's two parts of the discussion that I had. I also have a slide, if I can share, in terms of the situation of the property industry. If the Secretariat can flash that particular slide. because Tan Sri, if you allow, there's a bit of a chat with regards to the concern on overhang, unsold properties. Basically, from our research, we saw that yes, it's a fact that there is unsold properties, but if you go down to the details, the majority of the unsold properties are basically on one particular area. Go to the last slide, please. Next, okay. No, after thank you.
After thank you.
Okay, basically, okay, what I would like to share, basically, in terms of the overhang, the one particular product is the apartment and is centered within the context of Johor Bahru. And I know for a fact that FIAPSI is coming up with an article on this, which will be coming out in early August. So I hope, do look forward to that particular articles and you will have better clarity in terms of the situation. So what is important as a test from an individual perspective is, if you are supposed to go out there and look for property, is it something that is easy to get or is it going to be difficult? If it's difficult, means overhang is really not that much. But if something that you can easily get and developer is giving you a lot of freebies, and I would say, yes, there is a situation where buyer have better views and better selection and probably would get better bargain in the marketplace. Thank you, Tan Sri. I'll pass it on to you.
Thank you, Saeed. I have a lot of comments actually from the chat from Cik Effendi. Thank you very much for those questions and comments, Cik Effendi. One of your questions is, how do we address the 70% to value ratio? In other words, a lot of people, though they may qualify for a 70% loan, do not have the deposit, the 30% and so on. What do you think of this? Tan Sri Lee, actually, a lot of people cannot afford to come out with deposit that the banks require because of the 70% to value ratio.
Yeah, that's right. Actually, on this, actually, if you ask me, I have a feeling actually, sometimes the developer, we think that either ourselves or even our buyer, in fact, actually, we help the bank to make more money. In fact, actually, while we are talking going forward now, going down basics point, I believe now a lot of players, actually, they can't receive the rent, people not paying the rent, people not paying this thing. To me, this is a very big topic, financial in the property market. I think you will look at it, all the banks are still making a lot of money. And we are talking about windfall tax. I think it's a time in the industry must work with the bank and sit down. Going forward, if let's say, people, if you don't loan and you don't talk to us, it's like bank is always holding the handle and developer. To tell the truth, if you check country and public listed company, I always very envy actually since last recession, ASEAN financial crisis. All my loan I have to serve actually all about 6.5%, 7. I didn't even have a chance to have 5%. So I believe actually to help with this crisis, to going forward, one's thinking about new loan, but to help the people who have a credit card problem, that were paying 20% and bank only received a pay deposit 1.75. I think government has to look at that if we say we want to rebuild, is to really. And I think renting to own is a good idea, but on the difficult to take the loan now, actually is very simple. I think bank is like bank, this is a crisis. We cannot blame them that raining. So really, I think at this moment, they're launching any new project, even how good the project. You want to get a property loan, housing loan, is very, very difficult based on the bank attitude. Second, I think maybe bank negara also to protect the whole banking system. They also have a limit how much I have been approached to a bank saying, sorry, not say I don't want to lend to you. We are guided by Bank Negara. So I think on this is a very, very financial big issue if we really want to revive our property after post-COVID. And I think the industry really has to sit down with the banker, like we are like leads and the kid. When you have no kid, one day with no this, and really build a very healthy financial system. As property is one of the main actually is one of the main income for the bank where to get profit. We developer also the same. So that is my view on that, Tan Sri. But Tan Sri, I really like to also take this opportunity. Hope can spark. Dato just now said about the now we are still in deep crisis. How to not to say have open and suddenly government say close again. I thought industry, every industry must actually come out of the way to discuss with the government. I thought future is important, but how to address? Last year we have closed, like a hotel, and then we open. Business then suddenly close. Can we still afford another open and suddenly close again? So just now my idea is every industry must organize and take care of the stage 1, stage 2, stage 3 customer get infected, and only stage 4, stage 5. And every industry must have your own quarantine center, because especially property industry, all of us, a lot of hotels, actually we can help on this. Thank you.
Thank you. I personally agree with you that we cannot just open, close, because that will affect most businesses negatively. I mean, talking about it, if I may say so, my own industry, which is a real estate consultancy, what we do is we do valuation in order for the bank to know whether to give the loan or not, the value. During the last year's pandemic, and in 2020, valuers were allowed to practice. But this time around, we are not allowed to practice. And each firm, each branch of each firm has got about 100 to 200 cases to be valued. And we cannot go out to value because we are not allowed to practice. Now, this is the type of thing that I think, and I'm not going to push too hard though, for the government to kindly consider, because this affects the economy. I mean, that is just my opinion. But talking about what Mr. Lee has said about addressing the, sorry, can I ask Mr. Saeed actually this? Are we ready? I mean, can application of blockchain technology in housing and property financing? What does Mr. Saeed feel?
Thank you, Tan Sri. At Juwai-IQI, we use technology at a very extensive pace. And the last 2 years, our technology usage among 19,000 real estate agents have gone up quadrupled, I would say. So I think blockchain, yes, technology is the future, and disruptive technology will be equivalent to industrial revolution that happened many years back. So if you don't adopt technology, you'll go back to the Stone Age. So in order to stay relevant in the market, it is very important that not only the brokerage houses, but also the developers, the clients, they adopt technology in order to move ahead. And I've already shared in one of my thoughts last year that in the next 2 to 3 years, those economies will move faster where technology adoption is at a higher pace. I give you a live example of China. 20 years back, nobody thought that China would move at a much faster pace. And now China is introducing digital yuan. When I was talking about about Chinese yuan on 7th January 2011, people were making fun of me in New York. And after 10 years, Chinese yuan is becoming the global news headline, and everybody is talking about digital yuan. So I think technology is the future. Those economies that adopt technology, that will adopt a blockchain, AI, EV, 5G, this is the future. And many people ask me, Shan, as an economist, you are working for a brokerage house, why you are so much interested in AI and 5G and EV? And my standard answer is that I want to stay relevant in the market. And if you understand technology well, if you adopt blockchain, I think this is the only variable that will keep many people relevant in the market. Otherwise, it will be tough luck.
So is Malaysia ready for cryptocurrency?
I don't believe in cryptocurrency. I believe in blockchain. Since 2015, I have been saying that cryptocurrency will not be relevant because there are no regulators to it. So you can only have trust and confidence in a variable where you have regulators. So I think digital yuan is backed by the People's Bank of China. A Fed is coming out with digital dollar. European Central Bank is coming out with digital euro. So I think anything backed by the regulator, yes, I have confidence and I have trust in that. But cryptocurrencies, I have zero confidence.
Oh, thank you. Now I want to go back as last subject, which is a very important subject, is this affordable homes. You know, the government formed Prima long time ago. I want to ask my friend Salim, really as a CEO of GLC, do you think has Prima succeeded in what it was set up to provide housing? Salim, do you think Prima has?
Before I answer that, if you allow me to provide a bit of explanation and then eventually I'll come to the conclusion of whether they are successful or not. Is that okay, Tanji?
Okay.
Yep, okay, thank you. So basically, when Prima was created, it is with a view that there will be, originally it was intended that private developers to come in and provide affordable homes, and Prima would be an entity that regulates, which allows for easing of approval processes and all those things. And at the same time, providing facilitation, because from a private enterprise perspective, we know in the sector of affordable homes, there is practically zero margin. So it is important that the regulators allow for some breathing space for this to be sustainable. Push forward, once the Prima was eventually created under the Act of Parliament, Prima becomes developer as well. So I suppose they have deviated from the original intent, and subsequently they become a developer and they committed themselves to a couple of projects. Now, aspect of development is always about the story of demand and supply. So it's important that you establish demand before you eventually provide supply. From a developer perspective, we are someone who have been in the market long enough to understand that there will be situation where we have to put a handbrake into launch because there's no demand. Unfortunately, in the case of Prima, it's like the important for intervention to be provided at a lot of marketplace, and eventually they commit themselves to do a lot of things at one time. So I would say that they have stretched themselves to thinly on this. However, I would say if you look at some of those completed projects, there is one particular project where it is in fact our neighboring project in KL near Jalan Chan Saulin, and that project was very successful. So what is important is for them to be able to complete the project and then also achieve the sale. So on the aspect of where the location is good, I see a lot of successes in terms of Prima projects. However, on secondary location, where demand is not strong, you will still have an unsold stock. So for me, if you talk about some kind of improvement going forward, it's really about addressing this national agenda being affordable homes in the context of not just from a government perspective, but also to bring it up for developers to be a party in this particular project as well. UDA on our own, we have our own affordable homes, like I've said earlier. In the context of KL, we have built mixed housing in Kampung Baru. It is our legacy project completed. It's a mix of open market together with affordable product, residency wilayah. So because of the mix, it is sustainable. So on overall project basis, it is still profitable to UDA. We are also embarking on another project at Jalan Jubilee. We are in fact in the process of launching this, and we expect sales to be good. There's about 400 over units. So in terms of UDA's capacity to carry this, we will not be able to do a lot of things, but with Prima, UDA and other entities in the market, I suppose we will be able to address affordable housing in the context of Malaysia. Thank you, Tan Sri.
Thank you very much. Now, from residential, we have a little bit more time. We have about 10 minutes. I would like to just go to the office sector. What I want to ask Dato on this, what's the future of office trends in the long run with more employees working from home? Will there be a change in new office space? At the moment, I believe there is about 10 million square feet of office space unoccupied. What would the future be for the office market? Do you have any comment, Dato?
Yeah, the way I see up now, honestly, I think during this pandemic time, a lot of people talking about work from home, even banking system and all corporate system, they are working on home, quite a lot of staff. Even our staff also, about 40% they work from home. But after pandemic, I think everybody talk about pandemic, people need bigger office space. For our industry, a bit quite not easy for us is a staff work from home. We still need to interact, we need to see what face to face. So end of the day, I think we may need bigger space after pandemic. Per person, per square area. The way I see as far as location, right? You build the right office at the right place with all the MSC status. I think office demand is there.
Thank you. Tan Sri, in your investment strategies, what are your strategies in building office or providing office space in your investment strategy?
It's a lifestyle that link with the wellness, and also I think if they say after the pandemic, they say the virus is airborne, I think all the offices, what you call the ventilation, are very, very important. People, the space must be. So I think it's lifestyle, and then what you call the ventilation system. For me, actually, I is lucky. I always like not built in the city skirt. For me, my direction, I think the office is not very. Is really office will be not a necessity. You still need office, but to me, office will not be a necessity in the heart of the city without with traffic jam. And I think office, like any housing office, will be a change of lifestyle. And maybe somebody like me, using this pandemic, I do a lot of gardening, and while I work and come to this one. So I think the trend is changing, but what we say sometimes as an entrepreneur, we can say forget like it, but if you don't put in the try, whether you're a customer or not, you don't know. So, but the glut of the office is a real thing in Malaysia, and I think to me is if I can think of is my investment in any office or my old office now, we are going to change into a wellness lifestyle. For example, the mines waterfront, we already start changing. In front, put a very beautiful garden, got a walking path. We are talking with Huawei, and you see the watch and what wearing now. Actually, this is very important. I measured my what called oxygen. Now my oxygen is 98. So I think these are the new trend of the officers. And I think ventilation will play a very important part. We still don't know yet how this pandemic, the spread of pandemic is through the air. I think that will again bring out another for us human to think. But since today I like the topic actually is what I call the new norm, new normal, and everything is not be the same. But for me, I would just say go green, go technology, and digitalize the asset and digitalize the asset using the blockchain. I think is the way to go in the future.
What about the industrial properties, Tan Sri? I've been told as a consultant that the sector that is doing
that is very, very important. In fact, I'm really worried about actually what the country we have built compared to Indonesia. We have a very good industry supply chain in this country. But unfortunately, the policy maker, decision maker, they have to understand this. And I think I also be the first one when Malaysia just opening up to invite foreigners to come here to set up industry. The industry property was a play by the government and the state government. And those days you can get industry for $1.50, RM2 because we want people to come up. We all with the industry is set. But we have to be very careful. You see, nowadays I particularly like the sector. If we want to start industry, we must looking at industry not only making what you call the goods of the beside the cheap things like that. We must look at food industry now after this COVID-19. We must set up industrial park which is totally provide food security, food safety, and make sure even Malaysia we can build. I have actually give this idea to a very young Menteri Besar. I say, if you want to start industry, we cannot follow after the post-COVID. Food security, food safety is what people human look at. And Malaysia, we still have a lot of ample land. We can have a lot of raw material and send into this. But unfortunately, I think our food processing industry, I think this is a big area. But in terms of other industry like steel industry, China already have 1 billion tons already. Of course, Dr. Mahathir have a very good vision. You think a backbone of this country for the industry, for car, for this thing. But unfortunately, our steel industry, actually, we are much behind to me if you look at it. So I think, but for industry, I think it's still the main key thing. But we can look at new area, new sector. I think besides food, there must be many other industry products we can go in, especially the wellness product.
Thank you, Tan Sri. Thank you very much. That's it. There are no more, there's not enough. I think we have another 5 minutes. We don't want to take too much time anymore. So to sum up, I'd like to once again thank the speakers, namely Tanji Lee Kim Yu, Datuk T. Eng Ho, Mr. Shan, Saeed, and Mohd Salim, for your contribution to this session. I think it's been quite interesting session. To start with, I don't know whether Tan Sri Michael Yeo agrees or not. I think it's a good start. I do not have much time to summarize. I think Tan Sri Lee has summarized everything to me. He doesn't want this open, close thing that sometimes we do, because that will affect a lot of us. Also, the property market. So with that, we thank you again, and thank you for the questions, which I'm afraid I could not cover all the questions. And I thought, lastly, I would like to comment that I thought the speech by the Minister of Housing was a very well written and delivered speech in terms of the industry. So thank you all. Keep safe, keep healthy. Thank you.